Happy Friday, folks. Hope you're doing well. We have a whole host of things to get into today, including Sean Fraser actually announcing that he plans to do something about bail reform. Well, that's fascinating. But then, we will get into the antics of our media. And I really want to make sure I'm driving the point home. I know people are just like, oh yeah, we can't trust. No, trust me. These people absolutely hate us. And they will do whatever it takes to control the narrative. And they keep doing it using taxpayer dollars. And I'm absolutely sick of it. And we're going to talk on all of that today, including the likes of politicians in our system or people who work for politicians in our system who continue to advocate for violence in our country. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. If you get any value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us to grow and helps us get to new audiences. And it helps people see that there really is something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. Now, let's get into our first story, shall we? As I was saying, Sean Fraser came out with an announcement last night, which was awesome to see. Kind of funny how that all worked out. I went off on a tirade, and then he comes out with this announcement, not saying that I had anything to do with it, but it was just funny timing nonetheless. He says, my plan for the fall, addressing bail reform and stronger sentencing, hate crimes, intimate partner violence, and keeping kids safe. And well, this was his address to the media.
When it comes to implementing tighter bail reforms, including clarifying the role of bail in the criminal justice system, including reverse onuses for serious and violent crimes, auto theft, home invasion, human trafficking. You'll also see a number of different measures that strengthen sentencing for violent repeat offenders, for serious crimes, to ensure that the perpetrators of those crimes face serious consequences. We intend also to address very serious challenges with delay in the justice system, to ensure that we don't have serious crimes thrown out or stayed purely because they've been taking too long. We also intend to move forward with new measures that will help protect victims of intimate partner violence. You should see new sexual offenses established, including the non-consensual sharing of intimate images and non-consensual sharing of deepfakes that also protect kids against online exploitation, and we'll see more support for victims through the criminal trial process. In addition, we want to advance measures that will help address the scourge of hate crimes that we see in this country.
So that's the announcement. And won't hold my breath. We'll see what happens. I hate that we're at this point, but at least I took a step, at least a toe in the right direction on that one where they're finally talking about it. That's a big step for this party. It's a big step for guys like Sean Fraser to at least let the words come out of his mouth. That's a huge one for him. We'll see if there's actually any action behind it, especially when we talk about where the Liberal Party's done this in the past, where they've said, we want to put legislation forward to protect kids and children online. And then they ended up introducing a whole slew of laws that essentially gives sweeping powers to the government to make sure that they are able to censor the internet. And they do it under the name of, we're trying to protect the kids. So we'll keep a very close eye on this, because we know what the Liberals love to do. They love to say one thing and they love to do another, or at least use that one thing to bring in a whole host of other issues. But for now, because it's been such a crazy week, I'm going to choose to take this as a positive. I just need some good vibes in my life. I'm being honest. Your boy needs it. So I'll take that for what it is. But we'll be keeping a very, very close lid on it, because we know, well, the history of this party, and we know the history of the likes of Sean Fraser. And, well, he hasn't exactly yielded positive results in the past with the other portfolio he's managed. So keep a close eye on that one. And but at least they're talking about it, Well, at least they're talking about it. We move on to yesterday, where we saw Pierre Poilievre stand in front of a home and give a very scathing press conference of the crime in our country and calling on Sean Fraser to do his job. Let's do this bail reform situation. Let's start actually being able to arrest criminals instead of just sending them back on the street to go continue doing what they've been doing. These criminals are terrorizing our neighborhoods and terrorizing families, and we need it to stop now. Very scathing press conference. Well, in attendance at this press conference was Ryan of Northern Perspective, and he had a chance to ask a question. And he asked a question, and he made sure to step up and ask the question bluntly. And this was the question, and I apologize for the video. Wish I had a better one, but here it is.
One of the things that kind of shocks me is the lack of attention that the state-funded media has put on this issue since it became blatantly apparent.
So it looks like we're just having some connection issues with the question and answer session there involving the...
So CBC just, conveniently had connection issues when Ryan dared say the state-funded media, and they all of a sudden cut him off and they kind of went back to their anchor back in their studio. That's CBC for you. That's how they operate. That wasn't a technical difficulty. Let me break it down for you. Because when you're at these events, especially when there's things like formal like this, the organizers put out what they kind of have like a block of plugs that the media can plug into to get the direct audio feed. And so media shows up, they plug their cameras in, plug into the audio feed so they can get directly to the mic. When this happened, CBC randomly cut out. But Pierre's team, audio is perfectly fine. And you would see it throughout the broadcast. The fact it only happened once throughout the broadcast, out of a 45-minute broadcast, I think it was about, how it only happened once, that stuff doesn't just happen once. If there was actual issues, it would have happened 2, 3, 4 times, and they would have been trying to mask for it. That was a deliberate attempt to censor a question they didn't like. That was a deliberate attempt to censor speech that made them look bad. The deliberate attempt to censor speech of essentially calling out the truth of what the CBC really is. State-sponsored media. Don't like it? How else do you get your money? How else do you get your money? If the state just took away the money they give you, what happens to CBC? We don't know. We don't know. We're going to act like we don't know. Of course we know. You disappear overnight. You have to close down, cut everybody off. David Cochran goes, bye-bye. Rosemary Barton goes, bye-bye. That's what happens. CBC state-funded media. How do you like them apples? It's the reality. And the fact it was called out by someone like Ryan, Northern Perspective, someone from the independent media scene. Oh, I can't have that, making us look bad. This is the deliberate attempt to continue to censor and shape narratives. And they did it here, and they've been doing it with the Charlie Kirk stuff too. And it's been absolutely egregious. Look at how they report the Charlie Kirk story after it happened, and then give it 24 hours, and how they report on it today.
Following breaking news from the United States, prominent conservative commentator Charlie Kirk has been shot at an event in Utah.
So catch that. After it happened, prominent conservative commentator Charlie Kirk has been shot. Okay? All right. Hear that? Prominent conservative commentator. 24 hours later, let's have a look, see how they describe him, shall we?
Still ahead, the latest on the killing of far-right activist Charlie Kirk in the U.S. Investigators have released images of a person of interest.
It's just so egregious and in your face at this point. Far-right activist, very different from prominent conservative commentator. And if I'm being honest, out of all the conservative commentators in the States, he was probably the most milquetoast out of all of them. Out of all of them. There are so many others that you could go after, but Charlie Kirk, if you want to throw around the label of problematic, at least problematic for the left, Charlie Kirk was definitely problematic for the left. But in terms of conservative stances, he had the most mainstream stances of them all. So to turn around and say, far-right activist, that is the media trying to frame this in a specific way so as you stop feeling empathy for what happened on Wednesday. It's to start gaining traction that you shouldn't care about this guy dying. You shouldn't care what just happened. And by them doing this, they continue to increase the political divide in our country here in Canada as well. Because there's a lot of conservatives up here who like Charlie Kirk. And when they see what CBC is doing here, it makes them real angry. Real angry. We saw it here with Wab Kinew and provincial politics in Manitoba, okay? Rob Kinew, Premier of Manitoba, one of his ministers said this about Charlie Kirk. I thought, hey, this is a good idea. We'll post this on social media. Charlie Kirk was a racist, xenophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, sexist, white nationalist mouthpiece who made millions of dollars inciting hatred in this country. Whether his genocide denial, his transphobic tirades, his pushing for mass deportations, or his normalizing Trumpism for years, the man stood for nothing but hate. I extend absolutely no empathy for people like that. And to keep in mind, I may have misspoken earlier. This was a repost. It was one of her, these weren't her exact words, but she reposted it. She put it on her story on IG. Thought it was a great idea. Read it. It was like, oh, that makes sense. Posting that up. That's what she did. So that's people in government in our country believe this. That's how they feel. That's how far we've gone in Canada here as well. Tiana Rose Thomas posted this, or reposted this on her IG story. Again, she is the senior staffer on Melanie Joly's team, who's a minister of innovation and science here in our country. Again, another minister, cabinet pick. Yeah, her senior staffer posted this. A lot of people who haven't condemned a effing ongoing genocide are condemning political violence today. Again, these people continue to try and downplay the issue that took place on Wednesday. And by them doing it, they continue to drive the divide. Our favorite host, David Cochran, continue to do the same thing, and his host and his panelists' answer to this question continues to drive that divide.
I see a blend of all of those possible paths in the reaction, right? There has been a lot of finger pointing and blaming, some people celebrating, the murder of a human being, others blaming political, ideologies on the left, and others for what happened. I mean, what do you make of the way America is responding here? When someone reacts to a tragedy like this by blaming someone, they have an agenda.
Shrug the shoulders. Someone blame someone after a tragedy like this, they have an agenda. Okay. It's almost as if they don't know what's been going on following the story. When bullets are found at the scene with transgender and anti-fascist ideology engraved on the bullets, this is a political assassination, which means, well, it was likely someone on the left who did it. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of blame. And the blame is typically going to the media, which I know they don't like, because they keep driving this divide. I've been starting off this story with this. Like, look at how they set up stories. Look at how they frame things. Look at what the words they use in order to push division in our country. And they'll flat out cut you off if they don't like what you have to say. But hey, that's dangerous. You can't be, if you blame someone, you have an agenda. Did Charlie Kirk just get shot for no reason? No, just someone off the street is like, that guy wearing a white t-shirt. I'm going to shoot him. Is that how that went? Come on, man. Get out of my face. That's nuts. And you want to see something just absolutely nuts? Cult Montreal. Publication out of Montreal, of course, had this to say, and they're unapologetic. They've had this up for 24 hours now. Charlie Kirk died as he lived, propagating hateful myths about marginalized groups in our society. He was a profiteer and architect of America's increasingly violent culture war. You reap what you sow. To hell with Charlie Kirk is what they had to say. They published this and they're standing by it. You reap what you sow. What I find fascinating about this whole scenario, and I know this is a point that a lot of people have brought up, and I think it's a very good point. Since this all took place, what buildings have been burnt down? What businesses have been looted? What homes have been ransacked? What storefronts have been smashed in? None? Oh, okay. Interesting. But the slightest inconvenience happens in politics. The left will get out and burn down everything. You reap what you sow, they say. Because if you don't believe what they believe, then you are a bigot, Nazi, fascist. And they will use violence. And they believe using violence is the right thing to do to shut you up. I come back to the point I made yesterday. Josh, what's the point of sharing these things? Why do you keep doing this? Is it just getting people more angry? Maybe. Should have thought of that before someone got shot and you kept encouraging and you kept pushing people to that limit. Should have thought of that. And then after you get shot, you should maybe think about your words and how you present things in media, how you present things on panels, how you talk about these things. And they don't. They post stuff like this. So who's in the wrong? The people who post it or me for showing you who's posting it? Because this is what they're showing their followers. This is what the other side's doing. They think that this was okay and they're celebrating it. And it's getting more egregious by the day. It's giving very, very similar vibes to October 7th and October 8th People were a little mourning, but there were still some celebrations in the streets. And as time went on, more celebrations increased over the days of what happened on October 7th. This is giving very similar vibes. Half a day of mourning, and then boom. They'll tell you exactly how they really feel. And if so given the opportunity, they would do more of it if you continue sharing opinions that they don't like. Something interesting about Cult Montreal, shown off by John Thompson. They've received government funding over the years. Not a whole lot of money in the grand scheme, but enough to wet their whistle. This comes back down to the issue of media in our country, through and through. But guess what? No matter how much you fund the media, they're still going to lay off people in the process. Dozens of jobs cut at Global News in BC and Alberta. No matter how much you fund these organizations with our tax dollars, they're still laying off people because do you know what happened? You know what's really going on? Money's not going to actually infrastructure and trying to build up true journalism. No, all the money's going to CEOs and the payouts and the bonuses. That's where it's all going. So they take all the money and then they shed everybody else who they don't need. And they come at me saying that I'm fake news, that I'm not real. I'm not the one taking millions of dollars and still telling people to go kick rocks. I'm actually a responsible owner over here. What I find the most funny about this whole situation with Melanie Joly's senior staffer is that clearly her account is still archived, obviously. Still comes up in the search engines if people don't understand how this all works. But if you click on it, oh, don't know where I went. Oh, it disappeared. She deleted her Instagram account. This senior staffer deleted her Instagram account because, well, she's a fool. And it's not thinking. These people don't think. They are ideologues through and through, 100%. But those are the stories today. If you're interested in hearing more about Mark Carney and the national projects he's putting forward, feel free to go over to my friend David Moose on Luce's channel. He's been covering all that stuff the past couple days. As for me, enjoy your day. Have a good one. I'm out.